Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for attending this virtual meeting organized by SKP Securities. A reminder, this meeting is being recorded, and during the course of the discussion, there may be certain forward-looking statements, and these must be viewed in conjunction with the risks the company faces. On behalf of Black Rose Industries Limited and SKP Securities, it is my pleasure and privilege to welcome you to this webinar. We have with us Mr. Anup Jatia, Executive Director, along with Mr. Ambarish Daga, GM Corporate Operations. We'll have the opening remarks from Mr. Jatia, followed by a Q&A session. Thank you, and over to you, Mr. Jatia.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. This is the third time that I'll be having a call with investors in general. So I hope I'm getting better at it gradually. But please excuse me if I am unable to answer some of your questions and queries due to the fact that our Q2 results are yet to be announced, and I would not like to make any kind of unpublished price-sensitive information available to you today. I'd like to first start with the presentation that has been prepared. Naveenji, I think the host participant screen sharing is...
Anupji, I've made you the co-host. Now you can share your screen.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. So today's call is primarily to introduce people to the company. I understand from SKP Financial that a lot of people have been asking to know more about what we do and what our business is. So there may be some people here on the call who already are aware, but the purpose of this call is really to make everybody aware of what our company does. Okay, so to start with, the business of Black Rose is basically in two sectors. One is the chemical distribution sector, and the other is the chemical manufacturing sector. The chemical distribution business is the import and distribution of a wide range of specialty and performance chemicals. We'll get to more details on the next slide. But the chemical distribution basically forms the around 70% of our company's business as of today. The chemical manufacturing business, this is a sector we entered into in FY 2014 after signing an agreement, a license agreement with Mitsui Chemicals of Japan in FY 2011. We manufacture acrylamide in Jagadia, in our plant in Jagadia, and have been doing so now for the last 8 years. The other product that we currently manufacture is polyacrylamide liquid. The main purpose of the polyacrylamide liquid plant, the main market for that currently is the ceramic binder industry. And we do have, again, we will get into more details on this later. We are also currently entering into the manufacturing of two products, which is the acrylamide solids. That's a 3,600 metric ton plant, which is expected to start in this quarter. And the N-methylol acrylamide plant, NMA for short, 2,000 metric ton plant, that is also expected to start in this quarter. And once these two projects are completed, we will be working on our polyacrylamide solid plant, which is a 10,000 metric ton plant. We also have a subsidiary in Japan, which is 100% subsidiary of ours. The main purpose of that subsidiary is to maintain and to strengthen relationships with a lot of our Japanese principals by doing different businesses with them. Domestically in Japan, as well as in their own exports from there as well. Now to just give you a little bit more detail about our distribution business. The distribution business is really the foundation of our company's growth. The relationships that we have built over the years through our distribution business are the strengths on which we are building our manufacturing business right now. Whoever has worked with Japan or who has a deeper understanding of the Japanese business systems will understand the importance of relationship in this scenario. Our distribution business also, besides the Japanese factor, is also very different from a lot of other companies in the sense that we are not traders, we are distributors in the sense that we work with specific principles for specific products. We do not go shopping around looking for cheaper sources of product and things like this. We stick to our principles and we work very closely with them and feed them regular information, update them on the Indian markets. And these are the reasons why we are able to have a very special place when it comes to sourcing products, when it comes to receiving preferential pricing in terms of especially when the markets are extremely hot, like as it is, for example, today. These are the areas where we get significant advantages because of the loyalty that we carry together with our principles. To give you an idea, some of the different principles that we work with. In China, we do not have a very large sourcing base out of China. We only work with 2 companies in China for their products in India. One is a company called Hebei Chengxin, which we sell their ethyl cyanoacetates, and Shandong Exeris, where we sell their bromochloropropane. But besides these 2 products, our products are not dependent upon the Chinese sourcing at all. Japan, as you can see, is our main source of product. These are the companies, as you can see: Sumitomo Chemical, Mitsui Chemicals, Mitsubishi Gas Chemicals. These are some of our largest principals today. We also work very closely with companies like MT Aqua Polymer, who are manufacturers of polyacrylamide, and we do currently distribute their polyacrylamide in India. And that is the reason why when we start manufacturing our own polyacrylamide, we will already have the market knowledge and the market domain in order to enter that business relatively quickly. We've also recently added a new principle, which is Kao Corporation. Kao Corporation is one of the largest Japanese companies in the personal care space, and that's another principle we have recently added. Just to let you know, many of these principles have been added through references. It is not usually that we approach the principals to bring in new business into India. It is usually the other way around. Through references and through word of mouth, people do come to us from Japan to sell their products in this market. Now, some of the key distribution products, as you can see, I'll just highlight a few of the major ones that we do. There is a range of ethanolamines, as you can see, amine N1, diethanolamine, monoethanolamine, triethanolamine. This ethanolamines business is one of our key or larger areas of distribution. The crisols, the metacrisol, is also another large product. This is coming from Germany. The ethanolamines generally comes from Thailand. The other product, which is a key product for our distribution business, is resorcinol. Resorcinol, as well as isothalic acid, recently now added neopentyl glycol. So a lot of these are some of our key products where we are either the largest or the second largest players in this market. We also do exports of various chemicals, again, mostly to Japan. And we have a range of performance chemicals as well, which also mostly come from Japan. So that's just an overview of our distribution business. Now getting into the acrylamide manufacturing business introduction. So acrylamide was actually one of the key distribution products. We were distributors for Mitsui Chemicals. In 2010, we approached Mitsui Chemicals for their license in India. It turned out to be that there were several other companies from India who had also approached Mitsui at the same time. But due to despite the fact that we were not a chemical manufacturer at the time, Mitsui decided to work with us as their exclusive technology licensees in India because of the fact that we had strong market knowledge, we had a direct end user base, we had a long-standing relationship with them, and because they knew that we understand the Japanese culture. Working between with India and Japan is always it could be culturally challenging because of the fact that a lot of Indian companies have more experience working with European and American companies, which work on a very different type of basis when it comes to distribution or comes to licensing or when it comes to the legal aspect of things. Whereas the Japanese business is extremely based on trust rather than anything else. So this is some of the reasons why they decided to work with us. And accordingly, then in September 2013, we started our first capacity of 10,000 metric tons. The technology is environmentally friendly. There is a zero liquid discharge, no byproducts. It is an extremely clean and green technology based on a biocatalytic process. Because of this, the capital investment is also quite low. Of course, there are other biocatalytic technologies out in the market, but Mitsui's technology is by far the cheapest to install and to set up and to run. So this is why we chose this technology and why this technology is very crucial in our success. Now, to give you an introduction about what acrylamide is, in fact, I should have perhaps mentioned this earlier, but acrylamide is basically a industrial monomer, which is used to manufacture polymers, again known as polyacrylamides. Now, polyacrylamides have a very wide range of applications, starting with enhanced oil recovery, which is an oil extraction process, which is widely used in India as well and even internationally. Fracking, again, in fracking, polyacrylamides are used as a fracking aid. Without polyacrylamide, it is not possible to conduct the fracking process. Water, wastewater treatment, these are some of the areas where India is more active. Paper chemicals, textile industries, sugar production, manufacturing of ceramic tiles, mining. So it has a very wide range, coal washing, for example, it has a very wide range of applications. The polyacrylamides have a very wide range of applications. And to manufacture polyacrylamides, you require acrylamide. So acrylamide is a building block for these products. There are two producers in India, Black Rose, who is the first producer, and the second is SNF Group. So these are the two companies, two entities which produce acrylamide in India. Overseas, there are, of course, several more companies. A large portion of acrylamide producers are based out of China. But some of the well-known names would be companies like Mitsui Chemicals, Mitsubishi Chemicals, BASF, Kemira, SNF again internationally. So these are some of the producers of acrylamide. Currently, our installed capacity is 20,000 metric tons per annum, which is for merchant sale. And we also manufacture another 12,000 metric tons. We have a manufacturing capacity for another 12,000 metric tons for the captive consumption, in-house captive consumption. The acrylamide is manufactured from acrylonitrile together with the biocatalyst. So the consumption of acrylonitrile in acrylamide is about 0.4 kilograms of acrylonitrile to produce 1 kilogram of acrylamide liquid, which is at a 50% basis. Of course, acrylonitrile is widely available globally. In India, nobody produces the same. Reliance used to produce this until many years ago, but currently the only producers are overseas. INEOS, Ascend, Tongsuh Tongsuh Petrochemicals in Korea, Asahi Chemical in Japan, Sumitomo Chemical as well in Japan, CPDC in Taiwan, Daekwang in Korea. A lot of companies all over the world produce acrylonitrile. India imports all the acrylonitrile that it currently consumes. Acrylonitrile is also used as a key raw material to manufacture ABS. It's used to manufacture acrylic fiber. It's used to manufacture nitrile rubber. So there are a lot of different applications for acrylonitrile. The second business that we are currently in manufacturing is the polyacrylamide liquid business. This polyacrylamides, again, like I mentioned a little bit earlier, but polyacrylamides is a class of polymers that are water soluble, and they're formed solely from acrylamide or from acrylamide together with other monomers, such as acrylic acid or other cationic monomers, which are also available. Polyacrylamides are used for flocculation, which is used in the wastewater or water treatment site. Thickening agent, which is where it is used in oil extraction. It's used as a binder, like how we use in the textile business or in the ceramic tiles business. It's also used as a super absorbent polymers, soil conditioners, filtering aids, lubricants, and oil recovery agents. So it has a very strong growth internationally. Polyacrylamides is a very fast growing business right now, especially again with oil prices moving up. And depending on the application, polyacrylamides are used either in a liquid form or in a solid form. The global producers now of polyacrylamide are companies like BASF, Kemira, Solenis, MT Aqua, which is a Japanese company, and again, many Chinese producers of polyacrylamides exist. In India, polyacrylamides are made by us as well as our customers who buy acrylamide from us. Again, BASF India, SNF, Ion Exchange, Thermax. We've just named companies which you would all be aware of. There are lots and lots of other smaller companies which produce polyacrylamide in liquid form, especially in India, for various applications. But these are some of the names we have mentioned. It's also used in paint emulsion manufacturing. So that's another very large application in India. Our capacity currently in polyacrylamide liquids is 40,000 metric tons. And the only product we currently produce in this capacity is our Brilbind ceramic binder. And this is sold exclusively to ceramic tile manufacturers all over the country, but mainly in Morbi. And recently we have started sales as well in Uttar Pradesh. The raw materials for polyacrylamide are, of course, the acrylonitrile, which is used to make the acrylamide initially, and then acrylic acid, which is made by companies like Arkema, BASF, LG, Nippon Shokubai, a lot of companies internationally. Again, recently in India, BPCL has started manufacturing acrylic acid as well. Caustic soda is the other ingredient for manufacturing polyacrylamide. And we have companies like DCW, Gujarat Alkali, Aditya Birla Grasim, a lot of companies manufacturing caustic soda in India. Now to give you a little bit of background on the financials of the company. I would not go too much into detail here because the numbers are already available and you must have already seen those. But just to highlight our consistent increase on our PAT ever since FY17, and especially also during the last year, during the pandemic year. This was primarily due to our ability to work together with our principals, work together with our vendors, suppliers, to get over these COVID disruptions globally, and also principals who helped us to in the situations when the pricing had fallen internationally and we had stocks of products which are at a higher costing. But a lot of these principals came, helped us, and even provided us discounts post procurement. Now, these are again all based on our relationships and our loyalty that we carry out with our customers. We have also done the same with our customers based on the loyalties that they have given us over the years. And we feel that the distribution business as well as our acrylamide business has benefited over the years through the way we conduct our business, especially, like I said, it's all based on relationships and loyalty. Again, now the balance sheet, I'm not getting into the details of the numbers as they are available for you to see everywhere. But just to highlight some of the things is that we have capital work in progress at the end of FY21, which was primarily towards the expansion of our polyacrylamide liquid plant, as well as towards the expansion of our the acrylamide powder plant. So some of these are areas where we have been investing, and our polyacrylamide solid plant as well. So these are all areas where we have already invested and we continue to invest. To give you a little bit more on the revenue mix, like I mentioned, 70% of our business typically is in the distribution business. You will see gradually these numbers moving, fluctuating up and down, primarily due to changes in our distribution product profile. In fact, increases in our distribution product profile. At the same time as our manufacturing increases, you will see changes there as well. But on a long-term basis, we do feel that the ratios will move a little bit more towards manufacturing, whereas it is currently now at a 70-30 ratio. Now, to just give you some more details on the acrylamide solid project. Currently, China is the only producer worldwide. Japan, both Mitsui Chemicals and Mitsubishi Chemicals, once upon a time were producing acrylamide solids, but they stopped manufacturing the same several years ago. Currently, it is only produced in China, and our objective is now to bring, to add this production to our plant in India, so that we can start meeting the Indian 100% domestic demand, as well as export the product going forward. There are certain applications where companies or customers require still to use acrylamide in powder form, in solid form, and that's the target that's the market we are targeting. The capex outlay is not very high. It's around 8 crore rupees. This is, and of course, the additional revenue we expect from that is around 65 crores. Now, the reason why the capex seems low is only because the acrylamide is already produced with the previous capex. We are only doing an additional capex to convert the liquid into a solid. So the capex required for that process, for that plant, is about 8 crores. The acrylamide, of course, will be made at the same plant, so there is no additional capex required for that. The product validations, in fact, pilot stage is completed. Product validations are completed. We expect to start production during this quarter. It is only pending the necessary approvals, and once the approvals are through, we will be starting this production this quarter. N-methanol acrylamide is the other product that we are now going to start producing. Again, this is a product which currently is imported. These imports are coming from Europe and a little bit from China as well. But we again intend to meet 100% of India's domestic demand through our own production here. The plant capacity is 2,000 metric tons, and this is also in the piloting stage. We have already samples are under approval. All of this is currently in process, and this too we expect to start during this year. This is going to bring in an additional revenue of around 35 crores at full capacity. The third project that we are actively working on is the polyacrylamide solid project. Many have questioned why we have not worked on the polyacrylamide solid project first, rather than before the acrylamide solids and the N-methanol acrylamide NMA project. But this is basically due to the fact that the acrylamide powder as well as the NMA project requires a much lower capex, plus the markets are available to us immediately without any major gestation period. And we felt during the COVID disruptions, when the R&D work was a little bit hampered, we felt these were projects which we could bring to the table quicker. And that's why we focused on that initially. Once these two projects are over this quarter, we will be going full swing with the polyacrylamide solid project, where we plan to produce 10,000 metric tons per annum. This again gives us on a global scale, 10,000 metric tons of polyacrylamide is not a large number. There are individual plants which manufacture 5 times, 6 times, 15 times as much. But our focus initially is to target the domestic market, where the domestic market size for polyacrylamide solids is about 10,000 metric tons, not including the oil and gas sector. Now, we do not intend to target the oil and gas sector right now for the polyacrylamide solid, because number one, that sector is very large. It's about 90,000 tons. A single customer consumes around 90,000 tons today in India. And those are all tender-based businesses which are on very, very thin margins, which we do not feel is the area that we should be focusing on. Our intention is to focus on the remaining 10,000 ton market, which is the wastewater, paper, mining, these sectors where the margins are of course much better and require a much higher level of service oriented business, which is again one of our strengths. So we intend to focus on that market. Again, within that 10,000 metric ton market, our current plan is that we will sell 5,000 metric tons of our capacity in the domestic market, and the remaining 5,000 we intend to export, again to start building an export base, because the growth multiplier currently lies in our ability to increase our export business there. So of course, the Indian domestic market will continue to grow from 10,000 to 20 to 30 over the years, as more and more sewage treatment plants come up, as more and more water treatment plants come up, and as regulations get tightened in the country. So that is, of course, something that's going to happen. But for the international market for polyacrylamide solids is much, much larger than the Indian market. So we will be focusing on exports as much as we focus on the domestic side as well, so that we can move from the phase one 10,000 metric ton to the larger capacities which we are envisaging in the future. So the idea is a 10,000 metric ton plant is really more of a starting plant, a phase one plant, and then we expect to increase that in multiples. So that is currently in the R&D stage, and we will be increasing our focus on that business as soon as these other two projects, acrylamide solid and NMA, are completed. This is, again, just one more thing, is that this is expected to bring in an annual revenue of 200 crores at full capacity. Currently polyacrylamide prices have been increasing globally due to the ongoing issues with China's domestic productions coming down due to the dual control policy, as well as freight costs increasing globally. So currently, of course, the prices are much higher than this expected 200 rupees per kilo, which gives us 200 crores turnover. Just a very short brief about the management. The company consists of 81 people. I'm the executive director. I lead the team here together with Mr. Sandeep Chokhani, who is another full-time director on our company, and our team, including Mr. Ambrish Daga, who is GM Corporate Operations, our CFO, Mr. Ratan Agarwal, and various other members. We basically are also EcoVadis certified, and we fall within the top 83% globally in terms of our EcoVadis certification. This is an important certification when dealing with multinationals and European companies, American companies. So this is something which helps us tremendously in increasing our business as well. I think that's all I have to say to give you an introduction right now. And if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Anupji. That was really comprehensive. Now, friends, in case any of you have a question, request you to kindly raise your hand and we'll take it up with the management. We'll just wait for a minute, let some questions line up.
Naveen, there are questions.
Yeah. The first question is from Rahul Bira of Abacus. Rahul, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Hi, sir. Rahul here. We spoken earlier, sir, if you recollect, almost a year back, along with Mr. Sunil Singhania.
Yes.
Yeah. So, sir, just wanted to understand that in terms of the raw material prices going up, especially acrylonitrile also is up. So, how are the spreads moving for polyacrylamide now?
I'll have to be careful on how I answer this question, but I can tell you that acrylonitrile prices have actually hit their peak in March 2021, and ever since March 2021, the acrylonitrile prices have actually come down. They have come down to the level of $2,200 per metric ton, and which is now gradually increased to around $2,400 a metric ton. So if you look at it during this financial year, the prices have acrylonitrile prices have actually dropped. And on the domestic market of acrylonitrile, there's a very different scenario. We buy our acrylonitrile entirely from overseas, and we pay international prices for them. So we have not seen any increase. But the domestic market is pretty much controlled and handled by traders. And when typically what happens when prices are falling, kind of sit on the sideline and wait for prices to continue to fall. And when that happened, a lot of traders in India did not procure acrylonitrile, especially during the months of June and July and August. So in the domestic market, the acrylonitrile prices have shot up. They went up from a cost of, let's say, about 165 rupees per kilo. Traders were selling acrylonitrile at prices up to 270 rupees due to the local shortages. But we are not affected by these pricing because we do not buy locally. We buy all our raw material internationally at international prices.
Sure. Fair point. And sir, of all the ongoing projects, we've given a peak revenue at full utilization. So within how many years do you think the peak utilization will hit for each of the projects?
Okay. So for the acrylamide powder, we expect to hit our revenue, our peak capacity within 2 months, within 2 quarters after we start production. So if we start production this quarter, by Q1 FY23, we expect to reach 100% capacity utilization. Currently, the prices of acrylamide powder are also extremely elevated. We did the calculation of 65 crores based on a price of, I'll have to just take a calculation there. Yeah, based on a price of 180 rupees a kilo, But currently the prices are ruling at around 250 rupees a kilo for acrylamide solids. We expect to reach the peak capacity utilization by Q1 FY23. And on NMA, the NMA is, again, we are starting it this quarter, but that will take a little longer for us to reach full capacity utilization. We expect that to happen probably closer to the end of FY23. That requires various trials and sampling at the customer's end. So that takes a little longer for us to take it to full capacity utilization. And polyacrylamide solid, based on the current market dynamics, we think we can, once the plant is ready and once the plant starts, the demand, especially from export side, is extremely strong right now, due to the fact that many of our customers, potential customers, are sourcing all of their polyacrylamides out of China. So and especially in the US market, there is an additional duty of close to 30% on the imports from China. So there is an extremely strong demand coming out of the US for our polyacrylamide solids whenever they are ready to start. So we don't think it will take us very long to reach 100% capacity utilization there as well. And like I said, 10,000 metric tons is a very small quantity in the world.
Right. Hello.
I think there's some. Rahul, just give me a second, please.
Sure.
Guess there's some network issue at their end. Give me a minute, I'll have it fixed.
Sure.
Friends, just bear with me for a minute. I think there's an issue at their end. Friends, give me a minute. There's some connectivity issue. They've got logged out. They'll be connecting in a minute. Thanks.
Naveen, Mr. Jatia just informed that they're trying to log in again.
Sure, thanks.
We got disconnected for a moment there. Till where could you hear me? What was the last part you heard?
So the second project will take some time because it requires approvals.
Okay. NMA, that will probably be capacity by the end of FY23, and because that requires a lot of sampling and approvals at customers' end. It's polyacrylamide solid. What I was mentioning is that the polyacrylamide solid, we expect, as I said, the 10,000 metric ton quantity is not a very large quantity in terms of international in terms of international volumes. And according to that, and especially considering that the US market currently is extremely in demand for polyacrylamide solids, they are all dependent currently on the Chinese to produce and to provide their product to them. So we expect that we can actually reach 100% capacity utilization quite early on that once the plant starts. I think within 1 year from plant starting, we should be able to reach 100% capacity utilization for the polyacrylamide solid as well.
Sure, this is helpful. So one last question, a broader question from my end. 3 years, 5 years down the line, like how do you see scaling up beyond the current projects, like FY23 to FY26, if we have to speak? Is it going to be more relationship based with Sumitomo giving out us a couple of more licenses of different molecules to us, or Mitsui helping us out? And in the long term, again from FY26 to FY30, we saw Sumitomo buying out Excel Crop Care in India. You know, they wanted to have presence in India. So would you be open to selling out the business to MNC?
Okay, let me answer the last part first.
Sure, sir.
So Sumitomo Chemical has various divisions within the company. It's a very large organization, and every division is run almost like a separate company. So the Sumitomo Agro business, which is the business which controls and owns Sumitomo Chemical India, and which decided to take over Excel Crop Care. The agro business is different from the sector that we work with. We do not work with the Sumitomo Agro business. We work with
No, sir. I'm saying again, the Japanese Sumitomo, only the parent itself, specific to the
I'm talking
division
about
that
the
we.
parent. Yes. I'm talking about the parent. Even the parent
Sure.
company, they all have, although they are one company, they actually work, each department, each sector works kind of independently from the other. So that is why, although we have such a strong relationship with Sumitomo Chemical, we do not work in India with Sumitomo Chemical at all, because they're purely in the agro business. And we work with Sumitomo Chemical in different sectors, especially their basic chemical sector. We also work with them in their energy and functional materials sector, which in fact is also the sector which is predominantly active in all the battery materials that they produce. So we are very close to these different divisions within Sumitomo Chemical. So those are the areas where, you know, if we were to, those are the departments, those are the sectors within Sumitomo that we would work with going forward. So that is really where our business would go. At the same time, sorry, can you repeat that first part of your question? Is it again one?
In terms of.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah.
Yeah. So in terms of relationships going forward beyond Mitsui, do we see more molecules coming in for us through licensing or any other route with these other Japanese giants?
I think that is one of our areas of focus right now. Is of course based on the relationships that we have built. We would be looking at bringing in more molecules, bringing in more products for manufacturing. Yes.
Sure, that is great, sir. I'll come back in the queue, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rahul.
Thanks, Rahul. Friends, if anyone has a question, please raise your hand and we'll take it up. Pritesh Chheda from Lucky Investments is next. Pritesh, go ahead.
Sir, I have two questions. One, what is the status of the progress in the ramp up of polyacrylamide liquid plant? The one which is the ceramic binder, brittle binder.
Okay. You want to know the progress?
Yeah, because in terms of the utilizations, and when do you see it reaching peak revenue?
Okay. So I can tell you about, again, I need to be careful of what I say. So I will tell you a little bit more on a generalized business. So currently the Morbi market is, a few months ago, the Morbi market was witnessing a little bit of a slowdown, especially because of the transport prices had increased. Some of the mills, some of the factories went on strike, and the export materials were getting piled up at their factories because export freights were very high. Plus, they were not getting export containers. But the situation recently that we see in Morbi seems to have actually improved. There is currently, however, the fact that gas prices have been increased by around 25-30%. So these are some of the reasons, some of the areas where the Morbi ceramic tile industry is somewhat suffering. But overall, the sector is doing well. Our product is consistently moving into the Morbi market. We are trying to increase our presence there, and we are also doing a lot of further R&D on product development of the polyacrylamide liquid to further enhance the properties which our binder provides. And that is an active work in progress, where we hope to come out with even better products for quicker takeover of a quicker conversion of customers to our product in the market. In terms of pricing, we are extremely competitive. So pricing wise, we do not have any issues with our product acceptability, etc. in the market.
When do you think?
Yes, we hope that we can reach 40,000 ton capacity utilization over the next 1 year. It's again, like I said, it is a product which requires a lot of trials and approvals. So I think 1 year time frame should be something that is achievable.
Okay, and have we got some large customers there now already on the ceramic? Because I think that's a product which is only for ceramic tiles. Any large customers that we've got?
So yes, I mean, the Morbi market, the way it works over there is a lot of these large ceramic brands that we know, they have their plants there as well, but they also have a lot of plants which produce for them. So many of the customers that we sell to are OEM suppliers to some of these larger brands that you would be aware of. And however, the majority of the players in the Morbi ceramic tile market are local businessmen, local entrepreneurs. That whole Morbi Rajkot area is extremely entrepreneurial area, and people set up partnerships together with family and friends, and that's how they kind of set up these units over there. But each of these units are large units. They are large groups within Morbi, or large companies even within Morbi. So yeah, it's not, and we also do sell to some of the well-known Indian ceramic tile players. They are also our customers.
This plant for us came last quarter of last year, right?
Sorry?
This plant became operational for us in Q4 of last year. Is that correct? The poly, yeah.
We started manufacturing at a smaller scale in Q3 of FY20. No, of FY21. No, FY20. Yeah, Q3 of FY20 is when we started manufacturing at a small scale. And that is when we started sampling and trialing with certain customers. Then we expanded the production in Q4 again of FY20, Q4 of FY20, and then again in Q1 of FY21, Q1 or Q2. I'm sorry, I don't have the timeline in front of me. I'm sorry, I'm confusing you. But we started our full-fledged, let's say, activities only during last financial year. But we were disrupted several times in the middle due to COVID. But during FY22, I would say again, we were disrupted early in the year in April and May. But since June, we have been extremely active over there, yes.
What was your exit utilization rate of last year? For quarter 4 of FY21, you exited what utilization rate for this plant?
So our utilization in FY21 was not very high. I don't have a number available in front of me. I can share that with you later. But in FY21, I would
Exit
think,
quarter 4 of FY20, the exit quarter, because exit quarter was more normalized.
so I would say in the exit quarter, we would have probably been at around about 20%.
Okay.
Yeah.
And sir, my second question is, what is the price increases that you are seeing in the acrylamides product portfolio in the last 3-4 months?
The product realization?
Yeah.
So acrylamide prices have been increasing throughout India this last couple of months. Currently, the acrylamide prices are ranging for the powder. Acrylamide powder prices are ranging at around 250 rupees, and the acrylamide liquid prices are ranging at about 110, 120 rupees. Versus they were about, I would say, in the high 80s, low 90s earlier.
So the liquid has moved from 80 to 110, right?
Yeah, I mean, I would say high 80s.
And powder has moved from
120, and powders have moved from, let's say, 165, 170 rupees to about 250 rupees right now.
Okay. And pure acrylamide?
The powder is the pure acrylamide.
Okay, the powder is the pure. Okay, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Pritesh. We have a question from Satish Mishra of Tata Mutual Fund. Satish, please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Am I audible?
Yes, Satish.
Yes, Satish.
Yeah. Thanks for presentation, sir. Sir, couple of questions. One on your distribution business. If you can just talk whether there is any exclusivity for some of the molecules, or they distribute in India through many partners and you are one of them.
So there are different products are treated differently. In certain cases, we may be one of the distributors, but typically what happens in such situations is that the end use market may be defined. So for example, our company may have the distribution rights for a particular application for that same chemical, and somebody else might be handling it for another application. But that is a very, maybe that happens for 1 or 2 of our products. Otherwise, most of the products we sell, we are either selling it exclusively, or we are one of several players, but we would be the largest in any case. So it's sometimes what happens is the companies may have a historical association with another entity, and so they need to maintain certain relationships with them as well. But typically, we are the largest or else exclusive player for that product with that principle.
Okay, sir. So how does the margin works there? Is it fixed or how it changes for distribution business?
Again, that depends on the principle and product. So certain businesses we have certain kind, some types of price formulas that are worked out with the principals, and in certain cases, we are free to sell at any price that we like. But the way it works is typically there's a lot of discussion, a lot of market intelligence which is shared with our principals, and according to that we receive our pricing for the product. So it is extremely rare to make a loss in any of the products that we sell. Typically, there is always a positive margin. Now, those margins can range from anywhere between 3% and up to 30%, depending on the product.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
And on our manufacturing portfolio, so just to understand how do we manage this price fluctuation in both raw material as well as finished good, because ultimately our model is on the spread, but as you said, you talked about some of the prices, you assumed something, it is currently high or low. So how you manage the working capital, or what's your strategy for that?
So I can tell you about our procurement strategy. We have been now in this business for a few years, so we do understand some of these market dynamics that happen in our product as well as raw material. But one of the things which protects us from a lot of these fluctuations is that we have certain customers. Well, I would say almost 50% of our volume is done on a contractual formula-based pricing. So the price formula of our product price varies together with the raw material pricing. So around 50% of our product, especially a lot of business with the MNCs, these are generally done on this type of price formula basis. So which gives us good protection from the market movements. And the other side is, of course, it's on a spot basis, but procurement of raw material is typically done again on contractual basis also, so that we have a more stable procurement. We do not generally buy on a purely spot market for our consumptions. So we've generally been, and we generally also keep 2 to 3 months of stock of raw material, because any kind of price increase or decrease does take some time to reflect into the finished product. And so we generally keep higher raw material stocks with us at all times. And that has helped us throughout the years. We have seen that our strategy on maintaining decent stocks and not having to depend on the spot market and going into the domestic Indian market to procure our material. The fact that we don't have to do that has helped us tremendously in our business.
Okay. So, sir, one of the chart which you showed about your EBITDA margin, so I believe it was 12-13% up to 16-17% in FY21. So, and distribution business remains in the same 65-70%. So was it change in product mix, or it was just one-off because of price movement? So how we should see the margin, considering you have such a large portfolio for distribution, where margin ranges from 3 to 30%, you said.
So that's actually one of the benefits that we have, is that we have a nice basket of products. So because of this basket, we are somewhat insulated from heavy drops and heavy rises in a specific product. So if you see our manufacturing business, again, manufacturing, as you know, EBITDA margins in manufacturing are also a function of capacity utilization. As we produce more, the overall production costs come down. So that is again another factor, of course. But generally, we see that the distribution margin, for example, is over a period of time steady. We see certain quarters where you'll see a higher distribution margin, certain quarters where we'll see a lower distribution margin. But over time, we've seen that it kind of balances out because of the various products that we have. So we feel very comfortable with the basket that we have, and we keep, like, for example, neopentyl glycol. This was a recently added product. We expect this to become another big product for us going forward. So like this, we keep adding new products with principals who are very supportive. So last year, for example, when we had very high stocks of a certain distribution chemical and the prices crashed in the Indian market, internationally the prices crashed, we were able to talk to our principals, and they repriced the product for us based on the new product pricing. Although there was no compulsion for them to do so, but just because of the fact that we are long-term principal, long-term loyal customers of theirs. They did so, considering the market dynamics. So again, we feel very comfortable in terms of being able to show decent profits in our distribution business on a sustained basis. And again, on the manufacturing side, like I said, because we have 50% of our business is formula-based, again, that does lock in a certain amount of profit on a regular basis for us. Of course, there is a lag because the raw material pricing of the previous quarter is used to fix the pricing for the running quarter. So there will always be a quarter lag, either in terms of additional profits or in terms of reduced profits. But again, on a long-term basis, things become quite stable and sustainable.
Okay, sir, I have few more questions. Should I continue or come back in queue? Naveen?
Satish, please go ahead. Please go ahead.
Yeah. So, sir, on polyacrylamide, you said that there's large demand in oil and gas where you will not be targeting. So just to understand how that demand is met. So currently, are there other manufacturers or everything is imported in India?
Yeah, good question. So let me clarify my statement. I might have been a little confusing there. So we are not looking at targeting the oil and gas business within India, but we will be targeting the oil and gas business outside of India. So when it comes to the domestic oil and gas business, this is primarily Cairn India, which is the largest consumer of polyacrylamides in the oil and gas sector within India. And this is primarily sourced from China currently. China is a big supplier to India for polyacrylamides in general. So right now, all the polyacrylamide that is coming in, even for the oil and gas sector, is mainly coming in from China. Again, those are on formula-based pricing, but the margins, the spreads are extremely, extremely low. And again, they're tender-based. So, and if we were to feed 5,000 tons or 10,000 tons to a buyer who needs 90,000 tons, I don't think we definitely don't serve their purpose. And we end up becoming overly dependent on a single customer. So that is why, at least as of today, we don't intend to focus on the Indian oil and gas sector. Later on, when we do our expansions and we increase our capacities in India, at that time we would definitely look at that sector as well. But currently, we don't want to do that. On the international side, yes, we have customers currently in the US who are in the fracking space. And we sell acrylamide to these customers in the US who produce polymers for fracking. And these customers also procure a lot of polyacrylamide solids from China currently. So there is that demand which is available for us where we would like to enter that product. On the international side, we would like to get into that business.
And on polyacrylamide or other two capex which will get commissioned in Q3, any other domestic manufacturer is putting capacity for either of the three?
No. Neither. Nobody is setting up any capacities for acrylamide solid or for NMA as of now, as far as we are aware.
Okay. And to be price competitive with China, will we require any duty support or we will be okay with our own?
No, whenever we assess any project, we always look at it from a FOB to FOB comparison. We don't consider the Indian duties as a competitive barrier or a competitive edge that we get. Because duties are fluctuating, duties can go away as well. So we never look at a product, we never assess the viability of a product considering domestic duties.
Okay. And sir, if you can just last touch on this raw material sourcing. So how much comes from China and where all we get our raw material?
The acrylonitrile is our key raw material, acrylonitrile and the biocatalyst. So the biocatalyst all comes from Japan, and the acrylonitrile it comes primarily from Korea, comes from the US, Brazil, Turkey. China is not active in the acrylonitrile export business, but once in a while they do have certain cargoes available for the Indian market, and we do sometimes buy Chinese product as well, but it is not, we are nowhere dependent on Chinese sources. It would be purely a price decision. If we saw something coming in from China at a low price, we might take it. But our contractual obligations and contractual procurement is all coming from non-Chinese sources.
Okay, okay. Fine, sir. Perfect. Sir, maybe one more question. What percentage of your portfolio categorize under specialty? Because now everything is a specialty. So just on your perspective, maybe because of high realization or some chemistry complexity is there, because I believe everything doesn't sound like specialty.
Sorry?
I'm saying what percentage of your portfolio will fall under specialty, and which are relatively easily available maybe for importing, or there is no chemistry complexity involved if any new player is planning to manufacture that?
I would say all of our products fall under the specialty bracket. I cannot really think of. We generally segregate them between specialty and performance. Specialty chemicals, how we define them, are basically the chemicals which are primarily non-bulk items and products which are used, at least in our company, the way we define it is as products which are sold as raw materials to other chemical companies. Whereas the performance chemicals are companies which are products which are sold based on their performance parameters, not sold as a chemical raw material, but sold for imparting a particular process. For example, when we are selling cyanoacrylates, these are adhesives. So our customers use this product not as a raw material, but as an adhesive. So flocculants and coagulants, again, these are polyacrylamides, but the customers who buy our polyacrylamides, they buy it to impart a certain performance to a process. So this is how we segregate our product. But when I look at our product range, I would say that all of them are specialty chemicals. They all require certain technologies. They are not bulk chemistries. They're not petrochemicals, which come out of a refinery or something like that. They're all specialty chemicals which require a high degree of technology as well as technical proficiency to produce. If you have if there are any products which you feel don't fall under,
No, sir. No, sir.
I can clarify that if you like.
No, sir. Fine, sir. Thank you so much. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Satish.
Thanks, Satish. Friends, if anyone else has a question, please raise your hand and we'll take it up with Anup. Okay, presently no one there. In case you guys have something that comes up later, please feel free to mail it to me and we'll take it up with the management.
Naveen, what we can also do is, friends, Mr. Jatia deals in so many different kinds of chemicals. In case anybody has any questions about any of the chemicals or within those chemicals in their respective chemicals ecosystem, if any questions you want to understand about those markets or whatever Mr. Jatia can, certainly as a subject matter expert, he will be okay to answer.
Thanks, Nareshji. Mr. Jatia, in case you have any closing remarks, please. Something that you may not have shared.
Nothing in particular, but I would like to, of course, thank everybody for joining today's call. And I understand our business is slightly complicated, especially with the multitude of products and products which have similar sounding names. So, of course, if you have any questions anytime, please let us know, and we will try to answer them to the best of our knowledge. We will be continuing to have earnings calls as well as earning webinars. So we hope that we can interact more and more with all of you. So if you have any questions in the future, we can again help address them. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you very much, friends. And on behalf of all of us at SKP Securities, thank you very much, Mr. Jatia and Mr. Daga. And we look forward to hosting you after your Q2 results. Thank you and have a nice day.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Anup ji.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.